Hey guys, welcome. One second while I make sure everything's set up today. All right, we're live. Happy Monday, guys. Went a little later today than usual. Normally we do these Q&As on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern time, but today was a little later just because I had a meeting run late. And I fixed my camera, as you guys can see. It's not moving around. So yeah, today we're gonna do our normal Q&A style where you guys throw a bunch of random questions at me. I will try to answer them as best as I can. Oops, wrong camera. And then I'm gonna record a video for you guys today too, since that usually helps spark some questions. So basically, I'm gonna answer some questions. We're gonna record a video. Then I'll answer some more questions, and then we'll wrap up. We'll wrap up today. Sound good to you guys? All right. And if there is no questions, then I'll just get right into making a YouTube video for you guys. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about haircut prices, since that's been a topic that has been popular on social media lately, both from the client's perspective, from the barber perspective. Everybody's got an opinion on what haircuts should cost. So today I thought, since that's kind of a topic that is popular right now, I thought we could talk about haircut pricing. And how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point where some people are charging a ridiculous amount of money, or what some people might think is ridiculous for haircuts, and other people are charging, probably you could argue, ridiculously too low. And then we got everybody in the middle. So a lot of you guys are going to be watching the recording of this, so I'm just curious if you could put in the comments what if you're a barber, or if you own a barbershop, what are you charging for a haircut right now? In 2026, what are you guys charging for a haircut? As of right now, my shop charges $45 for a haircut, and we spend 30 minutes on it, and that's our price. Yeah, because like I covered in my previous video, my previous I just posted a YouTube video last week talking about the three types of barbershops, and that's where I go way more in depth about where I think, based on my opinion and what I've seen, there are three different types of barbershops, and where I think you want to consider pricing your services based on the type of barbershop that you want to operate. So, yeah, if you are curious, what type of barbershop you are, or what type of barber you are, go check that video out. It's on my YouTube channel. It's free, and so you'll have a lot more context on what I'm going to talk about today if you watch that video, but you don't have to watch it to get what I'm going to cover today, which is just simply like, how do we get to this point? How do we get to this point where you would think there would be a standard, in our industry by now, of haircut pricing and how haircut pricing is determined. But we'll get into this later. I go way deep into haircut pricing. I actually have a whole course on pricing in my free community. It's called the Barber Mastermind. Some of you guys are in the community. There's a course in there that I break down exactly how to price your haircuts. And this is actually one of the few things that I will say is there's only one right way to do this. And it is you can accidentally be charging the right amount, but you don't really know how much you could be charging, or you should be charging, for a haircut unless you do the math. So you have to do the math. Otherwise, you're just guessing. And if you're not profitable, or you're not making as much profit as you would like to, chances are you have a pricing problem, or you have an efficiency problem, or you have a utilization problem. It's probably one of those. You either not pricing your services appropriately, you are pricing them appropriately, but like you're taking way too long, or you have all these gaps in your schedule, or just like you're just not running a very efficient business. Your costs are out of control. Um, or what was the last one? You are you got efficiency, utilization. Oh yeah, your shop's just slow, right? So maybe your haircut prices are right where they should be, and you're running a pretty efficient business, but you're just not getting enough traffic to to see that profit come in. So the cool thing with a business like ours is the fixed costs are relatively low for a barbershop. So you can really unlock profit by just, in a lot of cases, just by just getting busier. Especially if you run a commission or a an hourly based shop. Um, if you structured it right, then you should get more profitable as the shop gets busier. At least that's the way I set up my shop. Like the costs, some costs rise. Fixed, a variable cost is a an example of a variable cost is the payroll, right? So if your barbers are getting paid a percentage of the services that you do, that they do, payroll will go up as the shop gets busier. An example of like a fixed cost would be the rent. Like the rent isn't going to go up if you get busier in a lot of cases. Like some landlords do actually take a percentage of your revenue. uh, but you knew that going in if you signed that lease. So always have a lawyer or somebody on your side looking over the lease for you so that you don't end up in that situation. But some landlords, when you get to a certain point, will start to take a percentage of your revenue, and that's all negotiable up front. So if you're in that situation, maybe hopefully you can renegotiate when you come to the end of your lease. But typically, rent is a fixed cost. Um, Another example of let's say a variable cost would be, let's say you use a lot of products, like especially if you're a salon, if you're using a lot of color, chemicals, like the busier you are, the more you use. And so yeah, but a fixed cost could be like the internet. Like you're probably not having to spend more on internet if you are busier, right? It's the same every month. Anyways, just to get an example, just to give you an example, but if you're the payroll is by far, I can tell you guys right now, some of you guys are pinching pennies and trying to find. We've done this too, or we were really trying to figure out, like, at one point we were trying to figure out how do we make our own barbicide. We did it, and it got the job done, but the real thing that's going to move the needle is focusing on the biggest cost in your business, which, if you own a barbershop, I can pretty much guarantee you the biggest cost in your business is payroll, is what your barbers get paid. All right. So that's going to be the number one thing. If you want to make more profit, you have to figure out how to keep that payroll in a manageable zone, where your business can afford it. And it's going to be different depending on your situation. If you have employees, you have to keep the payroll a lot lower because you have to account for the fact that you have payroll tax, possibly benefits, unemployment insurance. But you can actually structure it so that even though your payroll goes up as you get busier, you actually still get more profitable, right? What the one situation where that's not the case is if, let's say you have just barbers on straight commission, right? They get 50%. That's a common number that's thrown out there. Well, unless you change the percentage that they get or something, as as they get busier, chances are it's always going to be 50%. As they get more and more busy, they're still getting 50% of everything that they're producing. So your your profit percentage stays the same as you get busier, which isn't bad. They're making more, you're also making more. The percentage doesn't change, but the absolute dollar amount does. A 50% of you know 100,000 is a lot more than 50% of 25,000, but the percentage is the same. You know. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So I wanted to talk today about haircut pricing. I'm probably gonna get some hate for this video, but it's the truth, and I'm just here to share the truth with you guys. A lot of people have an opinion on what barbers should charge. I think that there's two scenarios where you should change your price. I think scenario one is you're not making enough profit, like we talked about, and you need to make more. So you raise your price, right? And that hopefully should fix the problem. The other scenario is actually supply and demand. So you're getting really, really busy, and you are too busy to the point where you can't even accommodate all the clients that are wanting to book with you. So the only way that you can make more, or you can make more and free up room for clients if you raise your prices. So it's actually sometimes a good thing to lose clients, because some clients are happy to pay a little bit more if it means that they can get in with you sooner. Like, not everybody wants to book their appointment days in advance, weeks in advance, months in advance sometimes. I was just thinking earlier today how I used to be, I think it was 2 months out. I was booked doing 30-minute haircuts too. I'm not doing and I was working full time as a barber at that time, like 5-6 days a week. I was booked 2 months out. And a lot of clients don't like that, because if they cancel, then they're going to have to wait a month, 2 months to get back on your schedule. So it's actually, I was watching a podcast with Marvy Marv and Daniel Contreras, aka Deluxe, earlier. And he said something that I actually agree with, which is it's not necessarily a good thing to be booked that far out. I do think there's a sweet spot, though. I think that every barber sleeps better at night. I know I do. Knowing that, I'm good this week, my schedule is full. But I don't necessarily think that it's a good thing to be booked weeks out, months out, I think that if that's the case, then that probably means that you're charging too little. You could probably get away with going up a little bit on your prices, lose a little bit of clients, and then still make more. But that gets into raising prices and stuff. What I wanted to talk to you guys today about is how do we get to this point of charging $100 haircuts? So let's get into that, shall we? Let's see. So I'm going to cover today what did haircuts used to cost in 50 years ago. Why I think haircuts I did a lot of research on this before, and this is not just off the top of my head, but why haircuts have gotten more expensive. Why I think people are complaining about haircut prices, specifically clients. Why some barbers think that they can charge $100 or more for haircuts, and then what I think is the ultimate solution, to figure out what your haircut price should be. So let's get into that. Okay. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about what the fuck is happening with haircut prices. Because $15, $20 haircuts are not coming back. If you're a client watching this, I'm sorry to tell you that those days are long gone. prices can usually only go one way, and it's up. So in 1976, the average haircut in the United States was $3.50. $3.50 for a men's haircut was the average in 1976, so 50 years ago. Inflation has averaged about, let's see, if the price of haircuts if the price of haircuts would have just kept up with inflation, then the price should be about $20 today on average, somewhere between 20 and 30 for a regular men's haircut in the United States. So the question is, why is the average haircut at the United States usually somewhere between $40 and $50 now? That's what we're going to cover in this video today. Is it greed? Is something happening with the economy? That's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So, a lot of clients and even some barbers are complaining about $100 haircuts, or just $50 haircuts are too expensive for some people. So I want to talk to you guys today about why these are totally separate categories. You're comparing apples and oranges. So what you guys are thinking about, if you're thinking about why haircuts have gone up in price, it's not necessarily, well, they have gone up in price and they have increased more so than inflation. I'll put maybe a graphic on the screen for the edited version of this, but haircuts have actually increased in price faster than inflation. So why is that? And it's because there's at least two different types of thing in the economy, right? There's goods and then there's services. So think about a TV, for example. Think about how expensive TVs were when they first came out. A top tier TV in 1976 cost $500. That was 50 years ago. It cost $500. So that would be about $2,800 or $2,800 in today's money with inflation, right? But today, you can actually get a much better TV for way less than $400. We've given away TVs as giveaways at our shop. The last TV we gave away was a 65-inch 4K TV. It cost me $298. So how did the price of some things go down when the price of other things actually go up? Well, the reason is because when you're making TVs, when you're making any goods, right? Physical stuff, those things naturally get more efficient over time. You can automate things with software, with robots, with technology. It becomes cheaper and cheaper to produce a TV or anything that is even better in quality. Where the reality with services is that you're buying another human's time. So as long as humans are involved in providing those services, the price is always going to outpace inflation. The reason why is because you have to, as a barbershop owner, I have to pay a reasonable wage to my barbers, because otherwise they're going to leave and they're not even going to be barbers anymore. They're going to go work at Amazon and make like $25 an hour, $30 an hour with no degree, not having to go to school or anything. So the main reason why the services are always going to outpace goods in terms of inflation, in terms of pricing, is because you have to be able to compete. We have to be able to compete with other industries in order to retain talent. Let me give you some other examples, right? Because it's not just barbers that are charging more for their haircuts. College tuition has increased faster than inflation. It's up 194% above inflation. Legal fees are 58% above inflation. Okay, and just to give you some context, I think it was haircuts are about 100%, maybe a little bit more above where they should be if we were just pacing with inflation. So mechanics, medical care. So you don't see anybody complain. Who's complaining about the cost of tuition right now? Nobody. So I don't know why some clients have decided to focus specifically on barbers, but virtually every service-based business, the prices have gone up. It's because it still takes a barber the same amount of time to cut your hair today as it did in 1976. Even though we have the same tools, the same techniques, so the tools have improved slightly, right? But the reality is it still takes time. It takes another human. They're selling you their time, and they can't do anything else during that time. Like, I always get jealous whenever I go to a restaurant, right? Because my server comes and drops off our food, right? And then they go right to the next table. And then they drop off their food and they go right to the next table. And they can work with many people at the same time. Where at barbers, unless there's some new technology that comes out, barbers can only work with one client at a time with the two hands that we have, right? And the tools have gotten better. We have maybe better techniques, but the tools have also gotten more expensive, which is also a reason why haircuts have gotten more expensive, right? So this is actually something called Balmo's disease. It's actually a real economic phenomenon, right? Where because a car factory, for example, can produce 100 times the amount of cars today that they did 50 years ago. A barber can still only work with one client at a time, the same as 50 years ago. So barbers have not become more efficient. We have not been able to get the haircut done, for the most part, faster than what it took in 1976. So because of that, because of the cost of everything going up, because of the costs of the doing business going up, and because we have to compete with the other industries that are offering higher salaries, we also have to offer a higher salary. And the way that we do that is by raising our haircut prices. Because it's called wage pressure, right? Because people in tech or manufacturing are making more money due to the productivity. So the guy that works at the car factory that can now produce 100 times more cars than they did 50 years ago is making probably more than a barber does, because they can produce way more for the company than a barber can, right? So I want to talk to you guys about, so that's basically why haircuts have gotten, at least is in terms of just pure, we're talking about the average barber here, like the barber that's charging anywhere between, let's call it $30 to $50, your average everyday barber, right? There's some people that charge less. I want to talk about the people that are charging way more. I want to talk about the barbers that are charging $100 plus, right? So this is when economics turns into ego, right? Because we all got spoiled during COVID, right? We all got spoiled. Clients were willing to pay whatever just to get their haircut done because everybody was shut down, right? Everything went up. Inflation went crazy. So we took it as barbers, I think as an industry, we took that as a sign that we can go up on our prices and people will pay it. Well, some people went and took that to the extreme, and now we live in a world where it's not uncommon to see a barber that's charging $100 or more for a haircut. So I wanted to talk about that. So I think that one of the reasons why some barbers are charging, $100 plus for haircuts is because of the social media effect, we'll call it, right? It has now become, I guess, bragging rights to talk about how much you charge for a haircut, even if your schedule is empty, Barbers still, I guess, feel some sort of pride in saying that I charge $100 or more for a haircut, even though nobody's coming in to get their haircut. That's what I charge, right? And barbers are pricing themselves based on their follower count, not their retention rate, which is, I think, really the best way to, beyond just figuring out what you normally should charge to stay in business. Beyond that, I think that you want to go off your business. What is your business saying? If your retention rate is high and you're staying booked and you're turning away people, that's probably a sign that you can go up on your prices, right? But I think a lot of barbers are wanting to charge premium prices for a standard experience just because they see somebody else do it. So I really think that a lot of barbers are getting. I think this is an interesting time in the barber industry, and a lot of barbers they're probably unsure of which path that they want to go down. And I understand if I was a new barber getting started today, I would be having the same challenges. Like, who do I listen to? But the reality is, as I shared in my previous video where I talked about the 3 different types of barbershops, there's so few people willing to pay that much for a haircut, right? Maybe that'll be different in 5-10 years, but as of right now, based on the data, the facts, there are people that are willing to pay $100 for a haircut, but it's a very, very small percentage of the market, right? So you're going after a really small market, and my argument is that if you're just getting started, if you're a barber that's fresh out of school, you have no business charging $100 or more for a haircut, right? The barbers that are doing that and doing that successfully, because there are people out there that charge $100 or more for a haircut and they're making it work, right? I don't think I don't think there's anything wrong with paying $100 for a haircut, personally, right? I just think that you have to be able to justify that price. Like, if you're a celebrity barber, or if you're charging $100 and you're still booked out weeks in advance, you're probably worth it, right? But here's what I think barbers get wrong, right? I think that the reason why some barbers charge $100 or more for a haircut simply comes down to some barbers don't like cutting hair. Some barbers care more about followers than dollars. They have more clippers and ring lights than they do clients. They care about how many more videos how many more views their video gets instead of how many clients they have. Some barbers just want to do 2-3 haircuts a day and go home. I think that's a little ridiculous, right? Imagine a electrician or a plumber spending 10, 15, 20 grand or more to go to school, right? Learn how to do all this stuff, just to, when they get out, say, I don't want to do this all day, right? Now again, if that's your goal and you're able to pull it off, great. I think that's an unrealistic expectation for somebody who is fresh out of school or just wants to make more money, right? I think that's something you can absolutely earn. Like I said, I believe that there are barbers out there that are charging $100 or more for haircuts, and they're doing just fine. I just think that social media makes that look like a much bigger phenomenon than it actually is. I think there is probably 1% of barbers out there, maybe less than 1%, that are actually succeeding at that price point. So I'm here to give you the reality of what it really takes to succeed in this business. And the first thing you got to do, which I think most people don't even do this, is price your services based on what you actually need to run your business. What you need to reach your income goals, but within reason, right? I'm all for charging more. Like, we're above average in terms of my shop's haircut pricing, but we're not like that far above. We're at 45 right now. And then we're going to be going to 50 at some point this year. And then, the only reason I'm raising it is because we're not making as much profit as I want. So, and I want to pay my team more. So where's that money going to come from? It's got to come from the haircut prices, right? Another reason why you see some, and this is maybe a good thing, another twist on this, but I think the reason why you see some barbers charging $100 a haircut is not necessarily an ego thing, but it's actually because they don't want to do men's haircuts because it takes away from spending time on a more expensive service that they could be doing. So this is very common with like hairstylists, for example. A lot of times hairstylists will price their men's haircut at some really high price, right? Or what seems like a high price. And that's just because that's what their time is worth. Because they could be spending time doing, $1,000 extension or whatever on somebody's hair, and you want them to take the same amount of time to do your haircut. So if I was a hairstylist, I would absolutely be charging, and I was making way more from extensions or chemical or color. I would absolutely consider raising my price to discourage people from booking men's haircuts with me because it's opportunity cost. I could be making way more money doing these other services. So if somebody books this service with me at this price, it's at least it's worth it. But I don't want to do men's haircuts if I'm a hairstylist because I would rather do $1,000, $2,000 extensions in the same amount of time and then be done for the day if I want, right? So you have to consider that too. If you're a client and you're seeing barbers or hairstylists charging $100 for a haircut, it might be because they don't like cutting men's hair. They care more about their followers than giving you a good haircut. Or it's like they actually do like cutting men's hair, but they just make way more money doing a different service. So that's why the price is so high, right? So, I mean, that's just my opinion, or actually, that's actually the facts of why I think the haircut prices have gotten to where they are. So $100 now is not unheard of for a haircut, but the average right now in the United States, just so you guys know, is around $43 for a men's haircut. It completely depends on where in the United States, whether you're in a rural area or urban area. Urban areas like cities are going to tend to be way more expensive, and that's typically just because you have to pay just to keep those people from going to a different industry, right? I had this thought a long time ago, which I think it shifted the direction of my business, which is that as a client, you can't expect a good haircut, a great experience, and for the barber to spend a good amount of time on your hair to make sure it's perfect and expect for the haircut to be cheap. It just doesn't work that way. The math doesn't work. We charge for time in the barbershop. So in a barbershop where the owner has done the math, the more time they're spending on that service, the more expensive the service will be. Think about it as I went to school and there was an instructor there who he said something that I would never forget, which is I asked him one time, he was really big into designs. And I asked him, I said, how much do you charge for that? And he said $1 a minute. So that stuck with me because that was the first time I had started to understand the concept of every minute you're spending on somebody, you should be charging for. Does that make sense? And I still use that today. Now it's more than $1 a minute that we shoot for now, but every service on our menu is designed to hit that minimum rate that we need to stay in business and make a profit. Now, because pricing is a science, it's not a guessing game. So you have to understand that if you didn't do the math to figure out what your price is, what you need to run your business, then you're guessing, right? And maybe you'll guess it right and you'll be able to run that way for a few years like we did. But the second you try to grow, that's at least the case for me, where I realized we weren't making enough profit to grow. And I had to go up on my prices a lot just to stay in business, not even talking about making profit, right? So if you guys are interested, I have a whole course on how to actually price your haircuts properly which is in my free community. It's called the Barber Mastermind, and it's 100% free to join the community. I'll have all the courses in there, and this is one of the first courses that I made. It's probably one of the shortest courses, and it's one of those things that it's like once you know how to do it, it's just like you're never gonna go back to the old way again, which is just guessing, right? So I think that to wrap this up, I think that there's nothing wrong with $100 haircuts, but I think the problem is when you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? If you want to be a content creator as a barber, then recognize that, right? Recognize that you're somebody that doesn't like cutting hair. You want to do a few haircuts a day and go home. Nothing wrong with that, right? But like what we do is if we film somebody's haircut for a video, we usually just do it for free, right? Because at a certain point too, when you have enough followers, you can actually make more from the content than from the if you were just to charge them for the haircut, right? We're not at that point yet, but some barbers get to that point, right? So you could actually do, and that's actually where it goes back to, like, if you have some barbers out there that are happy to cut your hair for free, right? But if you let them record it, like that's the way we work. I'll cut your hair for free as long as you let me record it so I can put it on YouTube and make some ad revenue from it. But otherwise, it's going to be a regular price, right? And then as we get more and more of our revenue from social media and YouTube, then the price is probably going to go up, right? Because it's like I'll make more off YouTube than by charging you, so I gotta adjust my prices. So if you're not going to be cool with me recording, well, it's going to cost more. You cool with that? So that's basically, I think, the short version of why I think haircuts went from $3.50 in 1976 to an average of $43 plus today. I do think that some barbers are charging a lot more than they should be, and I think the one way to tell that is like you're just not busy at all. If you're not busy at all, then you're probably charging too much. So you should probably consider going down or changing something, because ultimately you can charge whatever you want as a barber, but if you're not busy, then you're probably overpriced. And there's probably a lot of barbers out there that are charging, $30, $40, that are making more than the barbers that are charging $100. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's about how many dollars of revenue did you produce, right? And there's different ways you can get there, and there's nothing wrong with either path, right? There's some barbers out there making 100K, probably doing $15, $20 haircuts, but you know what? It's about the path that you choose. So I think that there's no right way, but I just think that some people decide they want to charge a lot just because they can, just because they saw something on social media, and I just don't think that's the right way to run your business. So this is why I think haircuts have gotten to where they are, and hopefully you found that valuable. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys bearing with me while I made that quick video for you. Do you guys have any questions for me? What do you guys charge for haircuts? I'm curious. We charge $45 right now. And we're probably going to go up to $50 sometime in the next month or so. Otherwise, I don't see any. I think our pricing is actually pretty good right now. The only reason we're going up is because I want to give my team a raise. I want to go up even more on profit percentage wise, so that we have a more cushion, so that we can build our third location, some profit for that. 35 going up to 40 euro. Okay, I don't know what that converts to dollar wise, but it's probably pretty close to what we're charging. Is that like average for your area? Above average? What would you say? All right. Nothing wrong with being above average, by the way. We're above average. We're above average. We are just, but we had to earn that. Like I started way below average when I started, and then as we got busier, I got booked further and further out. The price went up. Right. Some clients actually don't mind paying more if it means they can get in with you sooner. People will pay for speed. They pay for convenience. $40. That's about the average right now, for the United States. Maybe a little less than average, but yeah. I think that's the great place to start. So if you're a barber that's just getting started, you need to build up clientele. First, do the math to see what's the minimum you can afford to get away with, so that you can stay in business. Right? Don't do a deal that's going to put you out of business, but what's the least you can get away with charging, just so you can get people in the door. And then as you get busier, go up. Fully booked 4 barbers and 2 almost, and 1 starts in March. That's awesome. That sounds good, man. I got 2 interviews this week, and hopefully more in the coming weeks. I'm trying to do the same thing. Add some good people to the team so we can grow more. Our shops are pretty busy right now, actually, considering it's a January, which is typically a slow time for us. So that's great. I'm glad that's going well for you guys. All right. I don't know. We'll see if that YouTube video ends up being usable. Maybe I didn't make as many what's it called, clips for social media as I would like. That's one thing, because we talked about content yesterday on my random live that I did. It takes some practice, some skill, but I heard Dre Clipperhands. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of him. He's a pretty famous barber. He does the exact same thing that I was talking about yesterday, which is start with a YouTube video, and then from the YouTube video you pull clips from that. And then how many usable clips you can get from a video, I think, is the thing that takes some practice, right? Because you could be like, I still do this, but I think I'm a little bit better at it. But if you ramble a lot and you don't have like a clear, concise thought that can come across in like 30 seconds, a little bit harder to clip videos. But after some practice, after some skill, some reps, you can actually get a lot better at making content. And I would start with a YouTube video, pull clips from that for social media, use pictures, get pictures from that session too. And then that is I'm thinking about next week. That's going to be my video, either like how I've been making content for my shop, or maybe some other topic. But like that's definitely something that people ask me about a lot. So that's how I get the ideas for my videos, by the way, is usually these Q&As, or in my community people will post questions, or people like comment, DM me. And so when I get enough questions about a topic, I'm like, you know what, typically that's like a sign that I need to make a video about it. So all right, guys, I'm gonna end the live for today. Hope you guys found that one valuable. This one was a little bit later than usual, just because I had a meeting run over earlier, but probably try to stick to the same time next week. Yeah. Hope you guys have a good one. See you next time.